The sound was nothing like Mark expected. It wasn't a simple thud or crunch. It was violent, a brutal collision that tore through the frozen night with a metallic scream. The SUV slammed forward, its weight and speed meeting something that refused to yield. The hood crumpled instantly, folding upward like thin tin. Glass cracked. The front suspension groaned under the sudden stop. A burst of steam erupted from beneath the hood, hissing furiously as it poured into the snowfall. Then came the airbags. A dull, concussive whump echoed inside the vehicle as white fabric exploded outward, filling the cabin. Snow shot up in every direction, briefly clouding the streetlight before drifting back down in slow, lazy spirals. And when the snow settled, the snowman was still standing. It had shifted only slightly, leaning a fraction to the side, its scarf dusted with fresh powder. Its coal eyes stared forward, unbothered. The crooked carrot nose remained intact, pointing calmly toward the wrecked SUV, now steaming helplessly in Mark's yard. Mark stood frozen behind the window, breath caught somewhere between disbelief and awe. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might give him away. He had planned for resistance. He had planned for damage. He had not planned for total failure on her part. The driver's door burst open. Nancy stumbled out, coughing violently as steam and cold air rushed into the cabin. She slipped slightly on the ice, catching herself on the edge of the door. One hand clutched her wrist, the other pressed against the car as she tried to steady her breathing. Her eyes were wide, not angry now, but terrified. She stared at the front of her SUV, then slowly lifted her gaze to the snowman. "No," she whispered, then louder, her voice breaking sharp through the night. "What did you do?" Lights snapped on across the street like a chain reaction. Porch lights flared, curtains twitched, doors opened, voices murmured in confusion as neighbors stepped out, pulled from their sleep by the sound. Greg came rushing out in his robe, shoes half on, eyes locked on the wreckage. "Holy hell," he breathed. "What happened?" Nancy spun toward him, panic morphing instantly into fury. She pointed violently toward Mark's yard, her finger trembling. "He did this. He put something inside it. That thing isn't real." Mark stepped outside then, slowly, deliberately. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He held his coffee mug steady in his hand, steam curling upward in the cold air. His boots crunched softly as he walked down his steps and stopped at the edge of his driveway. He took in the scene, the shredded lawn, the deep tire tracks, the ruined SUV, the untouched snowman. "Evening, Nancy," he said calmly. "Rough night?" Her face flushed an angry red. "You set me up," she shouted. "You tricked me." Mark glanced at the snowman, then back at her. "It's snow," he said evenly. "You drove into it." Greg frowned, following the tracks with his eyes, from the road, across the curb, straight into Mark's yard. "She left the street," he said slowly. "That's private property." Nancy opened her mouth to argue, then froze. Sirens cut through the tension, growing louder as red and blue lights washed over the falling snow. A patrol car pulled up, tires crunching as it stopped. Two officers stepped out, scanning the scene with practiced calm. One of them approached Nancy first. "Ma'am," he said, steady and professional, "are you injured?" She shook her head too quickly. "He did this," she insisted. "That snowman, it's reinforced. It's a trap." The officer glanced at the snowman, then at the tire tracks, then at the crumpled front end of the SUV. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "why were you driving onto his lawn?" Nancy's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The officer turned slightly, nodding toward Mark. "Sir, do you have footage of this incident?" Mark lifted his phone. "Yes," he said quietly, "from multiple nights." Nancy's face drained of color. The snow continued to fall, soft, indifferent, covering the scars in the yard inch by inch. The snowman stood silently between them, innocent and immovable. For the first time since Mark had moved into the neighborhood, Nancy wasn't in control, and she knew it.